there is a very good chance that Ukraine will try to encircle Kherson and approach this city from the south. And in case this does happen, Russia will be forced to make an extremely quick decision. And at the same time, Ukrainian forces in the east strike again as they move closer to the crucial road between Svatove and Kreminna. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And let's go straight to the point and see some footage from the last several days. Our first video comes to us from Kiev region, and we can see the consequences of Russian shelling. Then we move to Belgorod, and as you can see from this picture, the local authorities started installing these defensive pyramids, which are called the Dragon Teeth. Our next stop brings us to Kropivnitsky, and reportedly a civilian object has been damaged as a result of Russian attack. And speaking about Russians attacking civilian objects, Russians finally gave us an explanation why they do it. And as you would expect it, the reasoning is pretty ridiculous. And I will talk about this very soon. Because right now, allow me to quickly show you some more footages from the south and from the west, and while I'm going there, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel if you like this style of daily updating. You can also follow me on Instagram and send me a message and I will reply to you. Our first video comes to us from the Black Sea area, where we can see Russians launching missiles from their ships. It has also been reported that Russians increased the number of their fleet in the Black Sea, which pretty much explains the increase in shelling in the last several weeks. The majority of these missiles target the south and the west of Ukraine, and in this video from Odessa we can see a Ukrainian plane intercepting one of these missiles. Then we move to Vinnytsia, where another Russian missile has been spotted passing by. Moving more to the west to Khmelnytsky, we unfortunately can see the consequences of a Russian attack. And then as we go to Rivne, we can see a big cloud of black smoke, which is a result of a Russian shelling. And finally, here is a video from Lutsk, which unfortunately shows us that a Russian missile was able to reach its final destination. As you might already know, in the last couple of weeks, Russia was actively targeting the energy infrastructure of Ukraine. And on this map, we can see the total number of such attacks in the last 9 months. And as you can see, 51 out of 85 attacks, represented by this orange column, happened in October alone. According to the head of the Ministry of Energy, German Galushenko, approximately 40% of Ukraine's energy infrastructure has been either partially or severely damaged. And approximately 1.5 million Ukrainians have no access to electricity. And because of this, the authorities are asking people to use as little energy as possible, and in addition to that, the cities turn off all the non-essential lights at night. And right here, for example, we can see the capital of Ukraine, Kiev, following these requirements. And before we talk about the counteroffensive in the east, and that Ukrainians are getting once again closer and closer to this crucial road between Svatove and Kreminna, here is your quick and ridiculous explanation by Russians why they are targeting civilian objects. And according to the Russian representative in the United Nations, Vasily Nebenzia, the reason Russian drones were forced to attack civilian objects, it is because they were avoiding trying to be intercepted. So it's like, yeah, we are trying to target military objects, but because these Ukrainians do not let us do this, we are now forced to target civilian objects. And so far, this is the best explanation they could find. And by the way, if you've never seen a pilot of a fighter jet performing an emergency ejection, I have a video just for you. And if you want to see the full version, in addition to thousands of footages that are available to you right now, please consider checking my Patreon. The proceeds will be donated to Ukraine, and you can find all the useful links down below. Alright, and now as promised, let's talk about the counteroffensive in the east, and we finally have some good news. First of all, as you can see from this map, Russians were were advancing last Thursday and Friday. But in the next couple of days, Ukraine was able to take all these territories back and even get closer to Kreminna-Svatove road. And they were able to liberate several settlements such as Misazharivka, Karmazinivka and Nevske. In addition to that, it has been reported that Ukrainians were able to push Russians a little bit further from Bakhmut. And later on, Russians attempted to recapture the lost territories close to Bakhmut, but as you can see from this video, Ukrainian soldier claims that all these attacks were successfully repelled. And according to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, the most recent major battles were happening close to Liman, Lysychansk, Bakhmut, Donetsk and Marinka. Just a quick reminder, the importance of Svatove for Russians, it is because it is one of the major resupply roads towards Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. And if Ukrainians are able to liberate this city, this will create a major logistical issues for Russians. And as you can see right here, Ukrainians are extremely close to this city and to this road. Alright, and now let's talk about the major part of the video, whether Ukrainians will be able to encircle Kherson. First of all, according to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, Russians continue their partial withdrawal, mainly of their infiltrators, collaborators and other important people. And there is still pretty high probability that Russians might attempt to destroy Kahovka hydro plant and its dam to cover its retreat. And according to the same report, the major battles are still happening around Dochany, Davidov Brid, Snehurivka and Posad Pokrovsky. And by the way, you can access all the map that I was drawing today for free in our Discord. The link will be down below. And at the same time, we have this statement by the Chief of Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, Kirill Budanov, who is saying that Russians are in fact preparing to defend Kherson rather than withdrawing from it. But don't worry, it's not exactly what it seems. First of all, yes, there is some evidence that Russians are bringing military vehicles, equipment and personnel to defend the city of Kherson. But nevertheless, some important Russian people, they continue to retreat from this area, which basically means that once again, just these regular Russian soldiers were ordered to defend this city, while the others were retreating. In addition to that, the Russian infiltrators are inviting the Kherson men to voluntarily join the local forces. What they're basically trying to do is to give weapons to Ukrainian citizens and defend themselves from approaching Ukrainian forces who are trying to liberate them. And I don't know about you, but it does not look like that it will end well. And going back to Kirill Budanov, he also made some statements about the situation around Kahovka. What he basically says is that in case Ukrainians are able to liberate this city, Russians will have to make a very quick decision. And most likely what it means is that those remaining Russians in Kherson will have to evacuate as fast as possible. And here is why. In case Ukrainians will be able to cross Dnipro river, most likely their next direction will be to go towards Kherson. And at the same time, Ukrainians will probably increase the pressure simultaneously from the north and from the west, which basically means that those Russians remaining in Kherson will be encircled with no probabilities to retreat. According to Budanov, Russian military might find itself in a similar situation as those Ukrainians in Mariupol back in spring. And that is why as soon as Ukrainians are able to cross Dnipro river, Russians will have a very limited time to retreat through last two remaining directions, through Brylivka and Holo-Pristan. And most likely this is this extremely fast decision that Russians will be forced to take. And I want to personally say thank you to Delavan, Greenlover and Didac Blanc for becoming my most recent channel members. And if you want to support my work, please consider joining my channel as well. All the other useful links can be found to my right and down below. Thank you so much for your attention, товарищи, and see you tomorrow.